Hi, I'm Mary and welcome to this video. We're going to talk a little bit about getting started with charcoal. Charcoal is a wonderful material to work with, and we have a few different types of charcoal. First, we're going to use some vine charcoal here. The vine charcoal is very light, very dusty, and I'm just using a sanding block to spread some vine charcoal dust around my paper. And when this is covered a little bit more, I'm going to take a chamois. And with that chamois, I'm just going to rub that vine charcoal dust into the paper. And we'll make this sort of base tone that I can work into. To get an idea of how soft vine charcoal is, you really have to work with it. Look how easily you can get this pretty messy vine charcoal to look fairly smooth. So now we're ready to draw. We're going to continue to work with vine charcoal. Here's a stick now. It does wonders for your manicure. And we're just going to sketch in the general direction that the pear is kind of sitting in space. And I like to make a little mark for where I want the top and where I want the bottom of the pear. I've decided to move it up a little bit. I don't think I want that pear to be quite so big, so now's the time to make that little change and set it up for how I really want the drawing to fill this page. Whenever I start to draw a curved object, I think it's best to start with straight angular lines that you can later round and turn into curves. And here I'm also including a little quick sketch of that cast shadow. The way that cast shadow falls is a big part of the composition, and right off the bat I try to get as dynamic of a feel as I can. So I'm looking at the light and shadow pattern, and I'm just kind of filling in the general shape of shadow that moves throughout the entire composition. Now, I like to start the light section of the pear a little bit darker than it will ultimately be, just because vine charcoal is so easy to erase and so workable that I think that's the better way to go. Start a little bit dark and then lift out. I'm using my fingers just to rub the vine charcoal into the surface of the paper. I like that sort of smoother look. Otherwise, you get this kind of scratchy surface. So just smooth it out if you like it, or leave it scratchy if you like that. Either way is going to be just fine. So now with everything smoothed out, I can see the placement of the pear, the light and shadow pattern. That's sort of phase one. Now I'm ready to enter into phase two, and that's just refining things a little bit more. But here you can see that I've got the cast shadow blocked in. I have the background shape established, and I've got light and shadow on the pear. And now it's time to brighten up the lights on the pear. So I'm going to take a kneaded eraser, and you just work those by warming them up and kind of pulling them apart until you find a clean area. No eraser dust. That's the beauty of a kneaded eraser. You can just lift with them, and out of that vine charcoal, things just lift out really easily. It's very impermanent. That's kind of its, attribute, but also its downfall. It really will smear around quite easily, so it's great to work with at the beginning stages. But as you start to cement and kind of commit to different shapes and shadows, you're going to want to change gears, and we're going to introduce a more compressed charcoal, such as a charcoal pencil or even a compressed charcoal stick. So start with the vine charcoal, and as you build that drawing up and you're ready to commit to these shapes of shadow and light and really get things cemented in there, then you're going to switch. Here I'm switching to a 2B charcoal pencil. And I'm doing this basically for the point. It's just too small of a detail to get into the stem of that pear. So I really need that charcoal pencil for this level of accuracy, I guess. Decided to add on a little bit to the right side of the pear. I'm just catching that the drawing might need a little bit more to the shape over there. Instead of backtracking and going through with vine charcoal, I think I added that just with the charcoal pencil. So you can work back and forth. I think of the vine charcoal as like a really nice soft ground that you can work into with your charcoal pencil. And I just also wanted to point out, with a kneaded eraser, you can get a lot of different types of marks. You can use that kneaded eraser to blend. You can lift back up to almost the white of the paper. And then I'm just building up that contrast a little bit between that erased out mark and the shadow to the right of that. Just going back and adding a little bit of pencil. And here I want to pick out kind of the detail edges that I'm trying to emphasize a little bit, that are maybe a little trickier. So building some contrast around the pear, not everywhere, just where you want to sort of focus the attention. I like to do this, again, I'll go back with vine charcoal just because it's so soft. It's really easy to work into the drawing. So I'm sort of reestablishing all the dark shapes that I had just at the beginning of this drawing. And I'm refining them a little bit as I go. This is one of my favorite tools for charcoal. This is a mono eraser. It's got a really, really thin, kind of fine point, and it almost loads like a mechanical pencil. So you just have this tiny little eraser that you can get into some really tiny details and make the shapes very, very accurate with it. So I highly recommend a mono eraser for some charcoal work. So just to wrap up this little demo, I'm going back in. I'm lightening the lightest highlights and darkening the darkest darks. And I'm refining edges as I go and adding like the smallest details. So you never want to start out with those small details, but as we're wrapping up a drawing, that's the time to really look for those tiny things that you notice on the surface of the pear, little spots. I'm gonna go in with a charcoal pencil and make those spots. And I find it's really often a struggle to get those little marks to sort of incorporate and look natural. So you can go back in with a kneaded eraser and sort of work them into the surface a little bit, or even a blending stump or a tortillon. So finishing a piece is often a matter of getting those darkest darks and lightest lights just a little bit stronger. That's the last thing I'm going to do here. Thanks for joining me. If you have any questions or anything like that, please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to answer them, and hope you enjoyed the video.